Alright, so we're doing another hot takes or unpopular opinion video, and this one is going to be on Wonder Woman. A lot of people seem to be liking this series, so it's going to be a series I'm going to start doing more often. Today, with Wonder Woman, we finish off the Trinity, and the first comment goes to Kikagna. Very hot take for comic readers. The New 52 had a great take on the Amazons. Historically, Themyscira has been portrayed as a sci-fi utopia with advanced technology, but the New 52 flipped that around and made the Amazons actually quite regressive, resorting to piracy and coercing men to sleep with them since they weren't immortal. I hope Gunn's Paradise Lost takes some inspiration from this take on Diana's home. That may be a hot take for a lot of comic readers, but for me, this is a hot take I 100% agree with. Because if I'm remembering correctly, when they give birth to boys, they make those children slaves. Regardless, though, it is the boys that do not get good lives at all. They're basically chopped liver, and the women get the perks of being an Amazonian in the beautiful Themyscira. I think you could even get away with a Wonder Woman story where that's how things used to work, but slowly as time goes on, it turns into a beautiful utopia with a very dark past. It would be interesting if Gunn uses that version of Themyscira for Paradise Lost, considering he did call this show the Game of Thrones of the DC world. But overall, I got to agree with this. I don't mind the clay births that Amazonians would go through in their prehistory. But the New 52, even though I don't really like that continuity, I gotta say that more darker and kind of depressing take on childbearing was really interesting. Britton Stegner, Wonder Woman is amazing no matter who plays her. Linda Carter, Susan Eisenberg, Gal Gadot. She was the first female superhero in the comics, therefore she should get a lot more credit because she helped start the superhero genre. And boys and girls absolutely love her. I myself am a man and a huge fan of Wonder Woman because she sees the good in everyone and wants to bring peace to humanity. My hot take is that Wonder Woman should keep the skirt as it looks a lot like the Amazon warriors would wear. Yeah, I like the skirt. I like a lot of different costume variations for all characters. Sometimes I like the crazier they get, but with Wonder Woman, there's a lot you can do with the skirt. You can make it armored, you can make it shield plated, you can make it a heavy leather material, you could make it look more Roman type gladiator, you could let it have more of a Greek look to it and have more flexibility. I do like a warrior skirt idea on Wonder Woman because it's just who she is. It is certainly a choice she would make when wearing an outfit. Nosfonitor says, Wonder Woman should have been the daughter of Aries and not Zeus. Making her love to fight and wanting peace thanks to Hippolyta would have made her more interesting. Making her similar to a Saiyans who loves battle would give more edge to her. Being Zeus's daughter doesn't really seem to do anything for her. They go back and forth with her having lightning powers, but nothing ever sticks. Also, it doesn't seem to give her any command over the gods. I don't remember her ever giving them orders. Dr. Psycho should be the one who is her main non-Greek myth villain. His psychic power seems to be useful against a tank like Wonder Woman, mind over matter as they say. This is another potential hot take I completely agree with. I have always thought Ares suits Wonder Woman's mentality far more than Zeus. It is Hippolyta that instills the good in her, whereas the love of battle, and even though she might not always want it, in the heat of the moment, the love of war comes from Ares. And I actually think that would be a really interesting internal struggle for Wonder Woman, not just having two beliefs instilled into you, but to literally have these two beliefs in your DNA of what makes you this person. Your mother only wants peace and love, but your father wants death and war. And how Wonder Woman would battle between those two things is where it would get really interesting, because then you would see a Wonder Woman from time to time who is very Aries-like. So I agree, it is much more suited to be connected to Aries. And as for your last bit there with Dr. Psycho, he's actually a really interesting character and could be utilized quite well in different circumstances. I mean, the most recent thing I've seen from Dr. Psycho is the Harley Quinn show, and we've all seen how they made him in that cartoon. It's funny, but I think you could do something really cool with him. Lithen Tishello, I'm sorry if I butchered your name. She's tougher to write than most people give her credit for. Everyone says Superman is the hardest to write for, but I've seen multiple great Superman runs and self-contained stories. I count 3 great runs for Wonder Woman in her entire history and handful of good standalone stories. Guess I ain't too mad when someone falls flat on their face when writing her, because that's 4 out of 5 writers at this point. There has to be some truth to what you say here, because often when you think about Batman or Superman, people talk about how, oh, this comic series or this one-off is fantastic for Batman. Long Halloween, Death in the Family, Killing Joke, Court of Owls. With Superman, you have All-Star Superman, Earth 1 Superman, Superman Birthright, Death of Superman. There's so many great stories for them. I'm sure if you look deep enough with Wonder Woman, there are quite a few really good stories, maybe more people preferable to others. But it is interesting how when we talk about Wonder Woman, a lot of the cool things that happens with the character, a lot of the interesting things we talk about with Wonder Woman often come from crossover events. They often come from Justice League stories, or they come from now movies or video games. It's not often I hear someone say, hey, do you remember this really cool Wonder Woman thing from a Wonder Woman comic book called blah, blah, blah. The Claymores, she's awesome, but I know nothing about her solo comic stories or events. Are they not memorable or not talked about because she has a weak rogues gallery? Once again, goes back to the comment we just discussed. Maybe there is a situation where a lot of what interesting comes from her comes from other places other than her own comic series. I can't tell you the last time I read a Wonder Woman comic book. I can't tell you the last time I picked up a Wonder Woman trade to read something only about her. Often, if I'm doing that, it's Batman, Superman, or even Green Lantern. With Wonder Woman, it usually comes when it's everybody. And as for her weak rogues gallery, I assume this means weak as in not interesting characters, and that is a big problem with Wonder Woman. I think a lot of her villains can just simply be categorized to Cheetah, Aries, and maybe Cersei. I do think that her rogues gallery is heavily lacking and she needs somebody more interesting. Z Production says, I understand why it's difficult to write a Wonder Woman story since her whole thing is about being a female icon. Nowadays, if you talk about issues regarding women, whether what they negatively endure or do in comics, people would flip and cancel it. It actually should not be that hard to have a female lead, and it shouldn't be a second guessing when you do it. It just is. The only reason why a lot of female movies today are looked so down upon is because they try to put so much political BS into it when that's not how it ever was before. I mean, think of some of the great female-led movies we've had. Kill Bill, Atomic Blonde, how about Aliens? V for Vendetta? Terminator? The Hunger Games has never been an interest of mine, but The Hunger Games, there is so many movies out there with female-led roles, and it can easily be done. It's so easy to just get away with a female-led movie without needing to rely on these political BS agendas that we have today. Barnabas Galante, hope I'm saying it right. Wonder Woman is a great character, but I have 2 hot takes about her. Firstly, I think it's weird when they put her in the past, mostly World War II, for for her first appearance. I like it more when she isn't like 80 years old when she meets the rest of the JLA. They did this pretty well in the Justice League animated series. Secondly, people are mad overrating her. Like, why do people think she can beat Superman? So with your first point, I agree. I actually like when Wonder Woman shows up in the modern day rather than showing up in World War I, World War II, or any time potentially a little after or a little before those two wars. I don't dislike it. I also don't mind it when people do it, but I do prefer modern day. As for Wonder Woman beating Superman, here's what I'll say. And I'm not saying you're doing this. This is just an in general situation. I used to fall in this trap, which a lot of comic book fans fall into it today, about who would win in a fight. Batman or Iron Man? Batman and blah, blah, blah. Superman and whoever else. It doesn't matter. I have my own personal opinions on who would win fights. The winner of these fights is who's ever writing the story. And give me a good enough story, and I don't care who wins. Because at the end of the day, if I were to write my own story, I would have my own winner. And my opinion on this is, yes, Wonder Woman can beat Superman, but only in very particular situations. In raw everything, Superman is above Wonder Woman. Strength, speed, flight, I don't care what it is. Although Wonder Woman has a skilled warrior advantage against him. And especially because they are friends, they're teammates, Superman will never go full out on Wonder Woman, which could give her an advantage. If this were a full-on fight to submission, no holding back, I think Wonder Woman could pummel Superman around a city for a little while. I think Wonder Woman is underrated in that fact, but at the end of the day, Superman would take it. Spider-Bat says, Gal Gadot had no reason to be in Shazam, Fury of the Gods, and Flash. Couldn't agree more, especially with Shazam, Fury of the Gods. It didn't fit. It made no sense. The color grading of that scene too looked terrible, in my opinion. That was just an overly forced scene in the hopes that people would be excited Shazam 2 was connecting with other DC characters. As for The Flash, I haven't seen the full movie, but I have seen the clip that she was in. It's another scene I think is just downright bad. I don't like it at all. And yeah, probably no reason for her to have been in it in the first place. Blobble says, I don't think she should be able to fly. It just doesn't really fit. I have a little bit of PTSD the last time Blobbles commented, I really don't like Man of Steel. I think it's a pretty awful movie that doesn't really get Superman right. But I've gotten over it. I'm feeling okay. And this is actually one I'm very neutral on. I like when she flies, and I also don't care if she doesn't fly. I think it's actually okay the way they handled it in the DCEU. With Zack Snyder, she could just jump really far, but then in Wonder Woman 84, even though it doesn't make sense that she learned to fly back in the 80s, but in modern day she was no longer flying, the idea is still there. I think it's okay for Wonder Woman, for maybe the first couple of years of her career, to only jump. But then all of a sudden, she begins to learn that she can fly. I'm okay with that. I'm also okay with a Wonder Woman that just can't fly. I'll go both ways, doesn't bother me. Golden Lantern. Though in the Trinity, she is my least favorite, still love her, she is the best symbol for hope and morality. When portrayed at her best, Wonder Woman is a woman of dignity, courage, and honor. Through Batman's morality and Superman's hope is what stands them out. I believe Wonder Woman can be the best depiction of them three. I think essentially what you have is Batman and Superman who are on two different sides of a very particular coin. You have Batman who's night and Superman who's day. I do think that Wonder Woman is a perfect character who gets both sides of that coin. She understands the mind of Batman and she understands the mind of Superman, because within Wonder Woman, she has some elements of both Batman and Superman. So she can almost be that bridge that holds both of them and all three of them together. Speeding Bear says she is the most influential fictional character of all time. That's really interesting, and I will neither agree or disagree with this. I think there is a lot of influential impact on a lot of these big characters like Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, Wonder Woman, even Wolverine and certain pieces of the X-Men, the Justice League. I mean, the Avengers are really not that popular of a team until the movies came out. There was influence there by the time the Avengers blew up on the screen. Of course, Wonder Woman has done a lot when it comes to influence, when it comes to societal impact. I'm sure maybe you could argue she has more of a societal impact than someone like Batman would. Even though Batman's more popular, maybe she's done more for influence in that situation. This is me keeping it more centered on comic books. Maybe there is another fictional character that other people would like to argue with. I will say there may be a just argument for Superman. Maybe Superman is a little more influential than her. But like I said, this is something I will neither agree or disagree. It is something you could very well be right on, but it is also another situation other people might have a very big difference of opinion. All right, and as per usual, this is where I give you my unpopular opinion. My unpopular opinion, and I know there are some people who actually like this, but I don't know how far this spans out to many of the fans or even general audiences. Wonder Woman's best romance is Batman. Batman and Wonder Woman are just completely opposite in all the things that is good to be opposite for, but they are very similar in a lot of things that it is good to be similar about as well. I also think Batman and Wonder Woman is a much better change in relationship than always having the Batman and Catwoman and the Wonder Woman and Steve Trevor. There is so much untapped relationship between those two that you can actually play with that would be a lot of fun. You know, just this idea too that Wonder Woman realizing that Batman would not be the type of guy she would fall for, and Batman realizing Wonder Woman not being the type of woman he would fall for, but it just falls into place and it works really well, almost way too well. And I mean, come on, their specimen would be next level. That boy or girl would be rich. They'd be super smart because of their father. They'd have all the Batman gadgets and cars and vehicles and suits. They would have a warrior and godlike nature from their mother. They would be royalty now because of Themyscira and their grandmother Hippolyta. This kid would be the future owner of Wayne Enterprises and a secretive island in the middle of the ocean. 100%, a lot of my influence for Batman and Wonder Woman comes from the Justice League animated series, but there are other comic books that show them together, and I think it works really, really well. I'm always going to love it, and it is something I would actually love to see in a future DCU. But there you have it. That is my bold take on Wonder Woman, and here are some of your bold takes on Wonder Woman. Because there have been so many comments, I can't get to everyone, so the community post is still up. You guys can go back there and check out to see what other people have said about Wonder Woman. So now leave in the comments below some more unpopular opinions about the Wonder Woman character that you might have. Also, make sure to check out my past 2 unpopular opinion videos with Batman and Superman. That is it for this one, everyone, and I will see you on the next unpopular opinion video. But until next time, I will talk to you all very soon.